Hello, good evening and welcome to the program. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you most kindly for joining us. Tonight, we turn our attention on the rising pushback against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government over the rescue operations in Kebbi, Kwara and Niger states. Opposition voices say the government is leaning on short-term wins and back-channel deals that only fuel what they consider a growing kidnap economy. The African Democratic Congress argues that the rush for headline-friendly outcomes powered by ransom payments, quote-unquote, strengthens the very groups that the country is trying to defeat. We'll be speaking with an ADC Chieftain on why they think this particular way amid growing concerns across the country, but especially at the very top of the food chain. More on this in just a moment after the day's latest in the politics.
INEC released figures showing 2,449,475 completed voter registrations across the country. Online pre-registration accounted for 1,425,898, while 1,023,577 completed physical capture. Osun led with 193,026 registrations, followed by Imo, 144,209, Kano, 142,433, Sokoto, 132,584, Lagos, 115,334, Borno, 112,226, and the FCT, 106,855. Kogi recorded 97,012 ahead of Jigawa 95,543 and Zamfara 90,739. President Bola Tinubu has sent 3 ambassadorial nominees to the Senate. Senate President Godswill Akpabio announced the list during Wednesday's plenary. The nominees are Kayode Are Ogun, Aminu El-Hatsu Jigawa, and Ayodele Oke. Atiku Abubakar criticized the federal government's handling of the Kebbi schoolgirls' abduction and release. He said the incident showed terrorists now act like an alternative government in some areas. He also faulted comments by presidential aide Bayo Onanuga, who framed the girls' release as a security success. Afenifere urged the federal government to accept foreign help when needed to tackle insecurity. The group made the call in a communique issued after its general meeting at the Elisha home of Li 2. The group made the call in a communique issued after its general meeting at the Elisha home of its leader, Oba Oladipo Olaiton.
Right, those are some of the latest developments in the polity today. Let's get back to the conversation of the evening, where we're going to double down, zoom in on some of the latest national debate about the security situation in the country. In the National Assembly, there were so many fireworks as lawmakers debated the current situation in the country, from the House of Representatives to the Nigerian Senate. So many hot takes about what the government is doing or is not doing to manage the situation. But outside the legislative chambers, the African Democratic Congress is leaning in, doubling down on its position about what the Tinubu administration is not doing and what it has accepted as a new normal, against the backdrop of the successive return of captured citizens in Kwara, the 38 churchgoers that were abducted in Iruku town of Ekiti, local government area of the state, has raised questions about the nature of those rescue operations, as well as the return of the Kebbi schoolgirls from Maga that were returned a little over a week after their abduction. While a part of the country is celebrating the return of the schoolgirls, others are asking questions about what this signposts as far as the fight against insecurity is concerned in Nigeria. But before we bring in our guests into the conversation, let's have a listen to the ADC's position earlier in the day.
That this administration is negotiating deals with insurgents. It is especially alarming to hear the Inspector General of Police state that the perpetrators of the Kwara church attack were not arrested just because they came out voluntarily to surrender the victims. Equally troubling is the comment attributed to the presidential spokesman, Bayo Onunuga, suggesting that the abductees were released simply because the government and security operatives asked them to do so. This raises serious questions. Is the Nigerian government paying ransom to insurgents? What exactly was exchanged for the so-called surrender of weapons by the kidnappers? And if these bandits truly surrendered weapons, what prevents them from simply acquiring new ones and continuing their criminal enterprise? If they are not going to be arrested and brought to justice, what happened to the people they shot and killed in cold blood? Where is justice for the families of those victims if their murderers are allowed to go scot-free because government needs a quick win to celebrate? The ADC is deeply concerned that if negotiation with bandits has become the government strategy for tackling insurgency and the surge in kidnappings, then Nigeria is on a dangerous and misguided path. It is the approach of an administration searching for shortcuts instead of confronting the problem decisively.
Well, part of the message of the ADC there from its spokesperson, Bolaji Abdullahi. Let's bring in our guest, who is an ADC chieftain, to expatiate on the thoughts of the party, the position of some of the members of the opposition, and why they think the way they do regarding the current situation of the nation. We have with us in the studio Dr. Ibrahim Mani, an ADC chieftain, to help us navigate some of the talking points and the hot takes of his political party. Doctor, it's good to see you again. Thank you so much for stopping by this evening.
Good evening to you, and good evening to our viewers as well.
Good to see you. Let's start this way. Is the ADC genuinely asking questions because it wants an honest answer, or are those questions just rhetorical and you're making an allegation regarding what's playing out?
I think everybody will have read the handwritings on the wall. We know what it takes to rescue people who are kidnapped, and if done through the proper way and executed with, let's say, some military precision, you will be getting stories detailing how successful these operations are, and it will be coming maybe from field commanders or some other military personnel, or even police or other security agencies that are involved. But where you have this type of statements coming out without giving any details, then as a party and as a people in this country, we all have cause for concern. Our concern is built on the fact that you cannot encourage terrorism and expect that it will just go away. And you cannot take such measures as to paying ransom or gratifying the bandits, the criminals, the terrorists, and expect them not to strike at the next available opportunity they have. They will never be satisfied. It's just the case of easy comes, easy goes. As they get the money, they blow it. The moment their pockets are getting dry, they will strike at the next available.
Does the ADC have proof that the government is paying ransom?
You know, they don't come out and pay this ransom openly. They will not get any video clips or whatever.
But that's not my question.
Yes.
The question is,
so
do you have proof that the government is paying ransom?
Yes, for them to say they have not arrested them, for them to say they talked to them and the people just voluntarily just hand over the Kwara or even the MAGA victims in Kebbi State, of course, will raise doubts. You are not talking to people who are reasonable in the first place. These are criminally minded elements that will go and kidnap students in school. They're not you and I that you can bring superior argument and make me or you change our position as regards any kind of hardline situation position that we have taken in the first place.
But we've seen bandits make peace deals in different parts of the Northwest, for instance, in Katsina, we've seen them make peace deals with almost 20, if not 20 local councils out of the 34 council areas in the state. So it's fair to say that something like this could reasonably happen without necessarily money exchanging hands.
So you see, has anybody come out clearly to explain under what terms and what conditions are these peace deals we've made? I had a very terrible story of a certain police officer, and I think a deputy commissioner of police, that was killed by these bandits. And on the day of the peace deal, one of the commanders of these bandit groups wore the uniform of this officer they killed with his name tag on it and came around to say they're coming to make a peace deal. That is a collective insult on the integrity of the police force and of the country as large. So why should we go into this type of negotiations and peace deals that are generally not sustainable? What happens to the victims? The carnage, what happens to the people that have been killed innocently? By the time you make peace deals, it means that there is no justice for the victims of this banditry. Why are we even making peace deals in the first place? It shows failure on the part of the government to secure the lives of the people in the first place. And how can you even trust these bandits that they will keep to the terms of these peace deals? These peace deals have been going on for a very long time, and these bandits have been reneging at every particular time. Like they said, the only bandit that is safe is that bandit that is dead.
So, back to the question again. Is there evidence to support your claim that the government is paying off these bandits to release these students and churchgoers that were retrieved a couple of days ago? Is there evidence to support this argument, or is this just
yes? So, like I said, they will not record. They will not put this thing on tape. They will not make video clips of when they are exchanging this ransom they have paid to these people. But you can clearly see the trend. Like I said, these are criminal elements that have killed people in the church. How can you go to a place of worship and kill people and take others away and then have a rethink after a day or two and return them? Why did they have to kill and kidnap people in the first place? It's because they want to make money out of it, and they've asked for ransom, as we are aware of. So how did they get them back without paying the ransom? So it's clear. When such things happen, you hear stories like this, that they hand over these people voluntarily. What we are afraid of is the fact that this can encourage other people to want to do the same, for the government to come and pay them and collect these victims, and it will be a vicious cycle that may never have any end. This is not the way to approach it. We know it's a very difficult situation for the country with all that is happening, but truly I think the government needs to have a rethink in order that they create a different or bring about a different strategy in addressing this issue of kidnapping and banditry. They cannot continue pacifying or gratifying these bandits and expect that they will stop eventually. They will not. They are not reasonable people.
So do you see the big picture here, which is that an open line of communication, as some have put it, is going to give the government an understanding of who they're dealing with? Ergo, that this is maybe the beginning of something much larger, exploring the non-kinetic approaches? Or is your position that the only way is to fight fire with fire?
I think fighting fire with fire could be the best option available to the country today.
Even if it means collateral damage?
Yeah, okay. So must there be collateral damage?
I mean, do you think it's possible to rescue all these girls in a kinetic way?
Must there
Going
be
there, guns blazing?
Must there be collateral damage? I didn't say they should go and carpet bomb all the forests where they keep the victims. That's not what we are saying. There can be a very precise and strategic military intervention that can go and pick out this. We all heard about what the Americans did with the American that was kidnapped from Niger and was brought into this country, and how they came with a precision operation, and they extracted this American without even the Nigerian.
We're talking about special forces, SEAL teams. I mean, we're talking about the Nigerian armed forces here.
Nigerian armed forces have special units as well.
Right.
And some of them I know, and you know very well, were also trained by the Americans. I don't know why they cannot be proactive, why they cannot be doing the same kind of operations like the Americans who train them do. I think this is the best way we can approach this, by precise and direct military operations with less casualty, maybe with no casualty if it is possible, and eliminate this terrorists. We heard about the attempt to rescue the Chibok girls. I'm sure a lot of Nigerians heard what the military officer was talking about 2 weeks ago, when the Americans came in. They traced and they tracked, and they got to know where the Chibok girls were located within the very first few weeks of their kidnap. And when the Americans got there, they saw the kidnappers, Boko Haram officers and their commanders wearing gas masks, because the Americans intended to come and gas them and extract this. So there has to be a holistic approach. We need to look inwards. We need to be sure that the security forces are not compromising the system. We also need to strengthen them and give them the necessary support, both logistic and operational support, so that they do what they are supposed to do. As a government, I think that should be what we should be focusing on. We may not be able to pay all the ransoms if this kidnapping becomes widespread.
There's a very big question about the ransom payment, because there's a very big if on it. There's no certainty, as far as we know, that monies were exchanged for the return of whether the schoolgirls in Kebbi or the churchgoers in Eruku. But let me get your 2 cents on the recent development regarding this, because the president has declared a nationwide state of emergency and has ruled out a couple of new measures regarding this particular one. He has ordered the Nigerian army and the police to recruit more personnel, the police to add 20,000 officers, a total of 50,000 if you add to the army's recruitment pool. NYC camp to be used as police training depots, DSS to deploy forest guards immediately and recruit more to flush out terrorists and bandits. The federal government is also calling on the National Assembly to support state creating security outfits, ergo the conversation about state police, to begin the necessary reviews in collaboration with state assemblies that will be needed for that. The president also has said that he is going to ensure the return of the 200 plus students that were abducted in Niger State, who are the only ones currently in captivity, as far as the recent development is concerned. So let me get your reaction to this one. Clearly, some would say this is a more hands-on approach, with the president coming out to double down on what is necessary. We know that for the longest time, the armed forces, the Nigerian police, have been dealing with a shortfall. So he's not only saying that go ahead, recruit more, he's doubling down on the other order of retrieving police officers who are serving at a secondary level, guarding very important personalities. Is that in any way commendable from your point of view?
Yes, we think it's a good step if they can withdraw those police men who are guiding VIPs and helping their wives to carry handbags and maybe helping them to go and fight. And
some of these
stuff
VIPs
like
are actually members of the ADC, mind you.
No, it is not an ADC policy that we should have policemen guarding our members.
Are you saying there are no ADC members who are being guarded by police officers?
I don't have anybody guarding me. I came
I
here.
mean, I'm not saying all
drove.
ADC members. I say some.
I'm a very senior member in ADC. I'm very senior member in the national
Dr. Mani, I'm sure
hierarchy.
you're not saying that there is nobody in the ADC who has police officers guarding them.
I don't know anyone in the party that has that. If you know, maybe you can tell me who they are.
So none of your stakeholders has police officers guarding them?
I don't see any police officers where we meet.
Right.
I don't have any. I've never asked for any. Because truly, for me, as far as I'm concerned, I'm talking about myself, I believe that the police officers have their duty cut out elsewhere, not to be following people's wives and be carrying their handbags. But like I've said, we are not just there as an opposition party to criticize the government left, right, and center. These measures, if they will carry them through, this is not the first time in Nigeria that we are hearing government saying they are withdrawing police and other security personnel from VIPs, and within a very short time, more than what was there before will go back guarding these same VIPs. I hope they carry this through and to the latter to insist that that be done. VIPs can take care of their security because they have the means. They can look elsewhere. It may even create an avenue for private bodyguards and securities
who are not allowed to carry firearms.
Yes, but they can as well be able to carry other non-kinetic weapons and so on. And of course, if the country is secured, maybe we don't need to be moving around they don't need to be moving around with all the escorts and so on. ADC has never been in government, and definitely...
I mean, you do have former governors, former ministers, former lawmakers who are in your ranks, and I'm sure there are so many of them who still have, today, police officers in their entourage.
Like I've told you, I have not seen any police officer in any of the meetings that we attend in my party.
Maybe it's part of those blind spots that you're not able to notice.
Yes, but I'm using myself as a case study. Like I said before, I don't have any. I drive myself. I came here alone, and I'm living here alone.
Right. There are some lawmakers who are pushing back, saying that, listen, because of their high-profile standing in the society, they could also be targets of these bandits. And we know, because of the politics of so many areas in Nigeria, political killings are not necessarily a new phenomenon. Do you also understand the concerns that some lawmakers are expressing, that there are some VIPs who need those security personnel around them to guarantee their safety? Because if there's nothing, if there's no one guarding their activities or guarding their presence in some of these volatile communities, they could become the next target for some of these bandits who could, attack them at any time. Do you understand that argument?
Okay, so it's just like saying which one should come first, whether the chicken or the egg under this scenario. If we put all the law enforcement personnel in the real duty of safeguarding the people and going after these bandits, there is hope that they will be able to succeed in getting rid of these bandits and wiping them out. So if they're able to get rid of the bandits and they're able to wipe them out, then why should anybody have any fears about anybody kidnapping them or attacking them? So I think this is what they need to look at. That's why the party thinks that it's a good step if the government will see it through. But as usual, like I said, we have had such pronouncements in the past, and it ultimately will be carried out for a very little period of time. And before you know it, these VIPs have all the people back to them. And then how do we define who is a VIP under this circumstance? Even if we want to make it a bit restrictive, then there is a need to say exactly who are those high risk or high target people that must have some of these protections. Somebody was mentioning that if a comedian has enough money in Nigeria, then he can go and get police to...
I mean, we've seen imams, we've seen pastors, we've seen celebrities. Right.
Yeah, so I think the people you call VIPs is just like anybody who can afford to pay. That doesn't classify them as VIPs. So what makes them VIPs in the first place? And why do we just have too many VIPs and too many policemen? Somebody made a projection that there's up to 120,000 policemen carrying handbags everywhere in the country.
I'm not sure about the handbag comment, but yes, serving at private capacity for private citizens. But let's switch gears a little bit to the president's declaration earlier, because he also called on state governments to rethink establishing boarding schools in remote areas that are usually volatile and lack adequate security, in cases like Maga, for instance, and all the other past attacks that we've seen, Chibok, Dapchi, Yauri, and some of the other school attacks or even church attacks, because he also called on churches and mosques to constantly seek police and other security protection when they gather for prayers, especially in vulnerable areas. Is there a part of this that sends a clear message to Nigerians that, listen, the government is out of ideas and clearly people should get the feeling that you're on your own in some cases?
Yeah, so that's what it means. If they don't set up schools there, boarding schools there, they may have farms there, they may have markets there, they may have places of worship there, they may have town halls there, they have their homes there. So what are we saying? That, okay, kidnapping in schools is that terrible, so it's more acceptable if you kidnap people who are not in schools. So I don't think that is right. I think what the government needs to do is to focus more on safeguarding the lives and properties of every Nigerian, irrespective of where they are. Today we talk about urbanization and how much pressure we're putting in the infrastructure that we have in our urban centers because people are migrating. And we are now creating a scenario and telling our rural people, who are generally the biggest contributors to our GDP, because that's where the farmers stay, that's where some of these little artisans stay, to know that they are not safe where they are and there's nothing the government can do. We're telling them they should all move to urban areas. That is on its own a big source of crisis if it continues for 5-10 years down the line. I think what the government needs to do is to double up and provide adequate security to every Nigerian, irrespective of where they are, for them to be able to live in a very safe and secure environment.
All right, let's talk about some of the divided opinions about the role of the government in securing the release of the Kebbi schoolgirls, the churchgoers in Eruku town of Ekiti local government area in Kwara State. One former Joint Task Force commander had this to say. He says that the Kebbi schoolgirls rescue, as far as he is concerned, saving lives and not catching bandits should come first. I mean, with that experience operating in one of the biggest theaters, Operation Safe Haven, operating in parts of the Northwest and the North Central, do you understand why this particular situation is a necessary evil, so to say? That the return of the girls is more important than killing bandits?
He didn't put it that way. What we would prefer is if they return the girls today and they go after the bandits tomorrow and kill them. We prefer that.
But isn't that what they're trying to do?
I don't know, but when you call them and give them ransom, how can you go after them and kill them? That means a lot has gone under the bridge. And a situation where what you said is applicable is okay, as a matter of strategy, that they save the lives and then they go after the bandits. But this is not in a situation where you pay ransom, where you negotiate with them and you give them money and you give them safe exit.
Why are you so certain that the government is actually paying money to the bandits?
If the government is not paying money, some of these rhetorics will not be coming.
The rhetoric is coming from people like you, people who are in the opposition, people who have a political agenda against the Tinubu administration.
Not necessarily. You see, when you start saying that people came on their own and dropped their guns and returned people that they kidnapped on their own because somebody had a telephone conversation with them, of course it raises questions.
Yeah, but they didn't confirm paying money for it.
Yes, like I said, nobody videos when the money is paid. Nobody confirms that monies are paid. But the scenario, of course.
You think that's the only logical conclusion?
Yes, the scenario.
That anybody
Because
can draw?
what we want to hear, because under normal circumstances, we'll expect that they will kill these bandits, they will decimate them, and then they will rescue the victims. And in most instances where that happened and they're able to rescue the victims, they take credit for it and they make noise about it. And you cannot come out if there is that kind of scenario played out and you claim that ransom has been paid. But when they try to make it look like a movie, of course, you know that a lot will have happened behind the scene and that they will not come out and admit that they have paid ransom. But what we are saying is that if that payment of ransom is actually what happened and that's what we're suspecting, then they are creating a very bad precedent. It's going to encourage these people to go about kidnapping more and more people. It will give them money to buy additional arms and even be more vicious and be more terrible in terms of their terror, which they will unleash on the people. It is not a very good strategy. It is not something that can help us get our people to have a safe life and existence where they are. It is not something that will bring about the peace and security that we all deserve in this country. Whether they come out to say it or they don't come out to say it, of course, we can see clearly that it doesn't follow the pattern where force is used to extract people from these kidnappers.
The National Assembly, the lawmakers had quite a lot to say this weekend. The House of Representatives, you have so many lawmakers, even on the APC side, with some scathing comments about the government's approach towards this issue of insecurity. The thoughts about negotiations, they say as a matter of policy, the government is not supposed to negotiate with terrorists in whatever shape or form, especially if they are categorized in this particular manner. There's also the adoption of the death penalty for terrorists in this country. Give me your 2 cents of what you make of the contributions of lawmakers in this debate, because Nigerians have had their say about what's happening in the United States Congress, for instance, when last week we saw that committee seating and so many Nigerian delegation speaking to the committee about the alleged Christian genocide, and Nigerians asking the question, why is our own National Assembly, why is our own legislature not investigating the matter in the way the Americans are going about it, and so on and so forth? What do you make of the commentary from the National Assembly, and do you believe that it will have the necessary bite to push the executive arm to do the needful?
Yes, so the question has always been that why now? Why have they been quiet? Why have they been silent all these years? This is not the first time students are kidnapped from schools or are even killed in their dormitories in this country. A lot has happened. Thousands of students have been kidnapped from the time this insurgency started and these kidnappings over the last decade or so. And there hasn't been any much of proactive measure taken by the legislature. As a matter of fact, I was speaking with a lawyer who said that even our laws are not, strong enough, are not updated enough to be able to try and prosecute people for kidnapping and all acts of terrorism. So they need to sit up and own up to their responsibility. They need to strengthen the laws against terrorism in Nigeria, and if possible, legislate that we have special courts that will try people for terrorism related offenses, and these courts will have the powers to act swiftly and get these people prosecuted as quickly as possible.
Do you think the system is soft on these egregious, horrible crimes that are being committed?
Yes, I think to a very large extent, because our laws are not as strong, and our laws don't have the biting power that they should have. And this is where I think the National Assembly owes all Nigerians a sense of duty and responsibility to look at the Terrorism Act of, I think, 2003 and see how they can bring in, additional legislative bite force into it for us to be able to get these people arrested and make them face the law squarely and be dealt with. I don't have any reservations if the laws will require that they be executed if found guilty. I don't think Nigerians will cry foul if at the end of the day they have a law that specifies that and they see it happening. Even on the long run, the terrorists, the kidnappers and the bandits will eventually think twice before they go into that. And more so, if the law will also permit certain levels or rules of engagement for even the military, to become legislated, so that for certain kind of emergency operations, maybe the high command can allow those operational commanders to go ahead and execute rescues and wipe out these people. I think a lot needs to be done in terms of our legislation and the way we tackle these issues.
Beyond just the commentary, Nigerians are always asking questions about the quality and the value add from the pontification we're getting from members of the opposition who are quick to criticize, who are quick to share their 2 cents on any development. Atiku Abubakar had a lot to say about the recent developments in Kebbi. P2B also weighed in. Your party has weighed in at every turn when these developments are unfolding. But the key question is, you're not offering any sort of solution. You're just giving commentary.
I just said that we need to look at the legislation. That I just said that the National Assembly.
But these are not surgical opinions that would give Nigerians an inkling about how the ADC is going to be different if it gets into power.
How else do you want us to be different if by strengthening the law?
You're not giving Nigerians an alternative as to what you would do differently from what the Tinubu administration is doing right now.
Certainly, whether we say it or we don't say it, from our position as a party, we will not negotiate with terrorists. We don't have to say it, because we don't have to say it this way for you to understand that for us to say we don't think it's right for the government to negotiate with terrorists, by implication we're saying that a government formed by this party will not negotiate with terrorists. And we're also, from what I've said as regards to legislation, if the National Assembly is unable to do it, a government formed by this party will definitely bring about legislation that will create special courts and tribunals that will deal swiftly with these people that are terrorizing our people. And if the need be, they are found guilty, they should be executed. Our party will have no qualms in implementing such measures. Our party will definitely not want a situation where every person who feels he has the resources can go and hire police people to be guarding them, while the real duty of the police people out there in terms of is not given the kind of necessary attention that it deserves. As a matter of fact, everything we are saying is part of the policy documents that the party is working on. I want you to understand that we don't think that we can bring about meaningful change and development if we go about doing things exactly as this government is doing, because we have seen the results. We have seen the impact of what they're doing and how negatively it's affecting our people and how deteriorating the situation has turned out to be. So as a country, I think what we need to do is to do things differently. And as a party, if given the opportunity, we will take the country in a different direction.
So the ADC is guaranteeing Nigerians that it will bring back capital punishment if it gets into power?
Capital punishment has not been abolished in this country.
I mean, but the last time we witnessed an execution was more than a decade ago.
Yes, so what's...
Not necessarily an execution, which is usually death by hanging, but, I mean, I believe it was Edo State that last signed a death warrant. Even that was not necessarily carried out, to the best of my knowledge.
We still have death penalties on our status.
Right, which is usually commuted to life sentence.
Not in
as is the case with many people who are currently on death row.
Yeah, if they're on death row, it doesn't mean that they will not be executed one day, except if it is commuted.
Well, according
to
our recent history, most people on death row usually serve life imprisonment.
What I'm saying is that the death penalty verdict is still on our status, it's still in our laws. I know there are a lot of pressures from Amnesty International and such other human rights bodies for the death penalty to be repealed from our laws, but it's still there. And I think what we lack is a government that has that political will to carry out the death penalty. But in a situation where people are actually killing and people en masse and creating all sort of havoc, it is going to be imperative that they're taught a lesson so that others who are contemplating doing the same like they're doing will think twice about it. Because a lot of what we're suffering in this country, not only with banditry, with all sorts of corruption and other crimes that are happening in Nigeria, is generally because people tend to get away with these crimes, and there's lots of impunity in the country.
Right. And in talking about where we stand today, talk to me about the idea that the president is, again, for the third, if not fourth time, is leaning towards decentralization, because we've seen his support for the third tier of government, which for the most part over the last 2 decades and counting has been emasculated by the state government. He's leaned towards his support for the actualization of financial autonomy for the third tier of government. He has talked about state policing and how he wants that to be a reality in this latest national statement that he has made on the state of emergency. He has also called again for the actualization of a state of emergency, calling on the National Assembly to work with the state governments, to work with the state assemblies to actualize it. Where do you see this going, and is that going to be the panacea for you?
I think generally as a party, the African Democratic Congress will support devolution of power as it is in Nigeria. There is too much power concentrated in the center and at the state level. The local government system in Nigeria is not functioning. There is no way we can deceive ourselves and say we have local government systems operating in Nigeria. As people will jokingly say, that people have become local governments unto themselves because they provide themselves with security, they provide themselves with roads, they provide themselves with water, they provide themselves with sanitation, they provide themselves with schools and so on. And these are things that are supposed to be taken care of by the local governments. The local governments are unable to do that because they are generally starved of funds by this conjuncture they call joint accounts, which they run together with their respective...
Which is still constitutional.
But it is the way they operate it that is problematic. So if there is enough devolution of power in a way that we can strengthen local governments and hold local government officials accountable to the resources they are receiving from the federation account in respect of the projects that we expect them to execute. be able to pay teachers' salaries, be able to develop and sustain the infrastructure and facilities in primary schools within the local communities, then it will be better for this country. And like the initial euphoria that people had, people were very happy with the government at the initial stage when it was when they gave the indication that local government will be receiving their funds directly from the federation account. But it became just hot air because that has not happened. And we believe that there has to be genuine and sincere efforts towards making the local government.
Who do you hold responsible for this impasse with regards to local government autonomy?
I think if the federal government wants that to happen, the federal government has what it takes.
I mean, it went to court, it got the Supreme Court judgment, it's through the NFIU, it's sending the funds directly to the third tier of government. What more do you think the federal government needs to do?
Yeah, I think some issues like that have political undertones can be settled politically. Now we have almost all the governors in the country defecting to APC and lining up behind the president. And so I think it should make it easier for the president to call his party members who are governors in the states and tell them this is what they think is best for the country. But I doubt that will ever happen.
Right. And regarding developments on the international scene, we understand that the president has sent 3 names, ambassadors designate, to the Nigerian Senate, which many think it's a reaction to the international pressure, mostly one that came from the United States in the last couple of weeks. Your 2 cents on that. It's been well over 2 years since the administration came on board, and this is the first time we're learning of the nomination for 3 ambassadors designate that Nigerians still don't have any idea, but we get the sense that it could be one going to the United States to at least address the gaps that we have in our diplomatic corps internationally.
I'm not sure if I remember the United States asking Nigeria to appoint ambassadors to the countries where we don't have ambassadors. What I recall clearly is the African Democratic Congress hammering the government for not appointing ambassadors for 2 years, and how that will have resulted in the disinformation or misinformation that has gone out as regards the nature of the killings that is happening in Nigeria, as to making it to look sectarian or even faith-based, creating a picture that it's affecting only Christians, and nobody is talking about whether it affects Muslims or even people who are animists in Nigeria. The party has spoken vehemently about that, and we are happy that even though the call came from the African Democratic Congress, that the government is beginning to think twice and is sending these ambassadors. It's not only the United States. I don't think there is any major capital in the West or any other part of the world where Nigeria has its
Are you taking
embassy.
credit for the announcement of the ambassadors' nominees?
We didn't appoint them. How can we take credit?
I mean, you're saying that it's as a reaction to the ADC.
Yeah, of course, because we're the ones that talked about it. We're the ones that cried foul. We're the ones that brought about the implication of not having them. We're the ones that said it is necessary and overdue. And we don't understand why the government can operate without having our embassies running in some of the countries.
Do you think the president cares what the ADC thinks of what he's doing?
Okay, so why are they appointing ambassadors? The Americans did not ask them to appoint.
It's his prerogative.
No, why now?
It's his prerogative.
Why did he wait until
what has the time got to do with anything in your view?
No, I want you to understand from the angle we're coming. We make our positions clear, not purely for the sake of opposition. It's because we feel that is what is best for this country. We give alternative positions, alternative views. We create better solutions for the country. If the government toe the line and do what we ask them to do, good and fine. But most importantly, we're telling Nigerians that they're not doing things right, and that maybe we're in a better position to bring about the change that Nigerians deserve.
So you do believe that the president is listening to what the ADC has to say about his administration and their performance?
Of course, because no one else asks that it's callous for them not to have ambassadors except the African Democratic Congress.
There's a word in the English language that best explains that. Coincidence.
Yes, you're the one saying so. We don't think it's a coincidence.
You don't think it's a coincidence?
No, we don't think so. You're the one who thinks it's a coincidence.
Right. But in the final analysis, as we wrap things up, the past couple of weeks have been intense. The atmosphere still remains charged politically, religiously, and the fault lines are beginning to show in an obvious and glaring manner. Do you think the release of the girls in Kebbi and then the promise that the Niger school girls or school children would be released soon could see a de-escalation of things, especially in the north central areas like Niger, Kwara, and Kebbi, Kogi to some extent, that have been really, really charged over the past couple of months? Do you see a turnaround, especially as we head into the Yuletide season?
Yes. So what we are afraid of is if they paid ransom to secure these releases, then we're not going to see a de-escalation. We're going to see an increase. It will escalate. We're going to have more of these attacks and more of these kidnappings because they have been gratified. They're making money from it. They will use this money to further strengthen their weaponry and unleash more havoc on the people. And that has been our party's position. We believe that through precise and precision military action, people kidnapped can be rescued.
Dr. Mani, it's always good to see you. Thank you so much for the analysis, and we appreciate you for stopping by this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. And that is a wrap on tonight's edition of the program. Daily Politics returns tomorrow live at 8 p.m. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. From myself and the rest of the team, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.